All right, take two. This time with sound. Hello, my name is Chris. Um, I guess I'll actually just run down these questions. I didn't prepare because I figure we might get something better if it just comes straight off my head. I will preface this by saying I do a lot of anti incarceration work and I tell a lot of stories about before and after my incarceration, but rarely do I tell any stories about what happened while I was in there. So, this is the first time I'm doing this, so I apologize if it doesn't come off completely smooth or natural or organic, but I'll do what I can. So first, how long was I in Vienna? Um, from 2007 to 2008, roughly 7 months. As you probably know, everybody who gets sentenced generally goes to Joliet until they decide where you're going. So I was there about 3 weeks, and then I was sent to Vienna. I can't tell you the exact months. I believe it was the beginning of October. This has been a while, and I've kind of shut a lot of this out of my head, but I know I did Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas of '07 in Vienna, and then a good portion, I believe I was transferred out to Jacksonville March or April. The conditions of the physical buildings. Okay, I had no idea what to expect. This is my first time ever going to prison, and this is my first actual prison outside of the facility in Joliet. So at first it was like, wow, this is amazing. I don't have a toilet in my room. I'm not locked in 24/7. At the time, I'm not sure where it's at now. Vienna was a minimum security for whatever that's worth. But the building, it was an old brick building with different houses. You start in 19, then you get moved to your actual housing facility where you're going to stay, and definitely in ill repair. This is about 13 years ago, and I'd kind of assumed that maybe they'd fixed up some stuff, but from what I'm hearing online, it appears they haven't fixed much. Um, the buildings were rather decrepit. The first thing that I kind of realized was on the doors, the entryways to each house, there was space above and below, so critters could get in. But full disclosure, the critters in the housing, that wasn't the biggest issue. Um, Housing where we actually slept was kept very clean because we keep it clean. You keep your own room clean because you do a lot of eating in there. So I'm going to go ahead and move on from housing to the cafeteria. My first work assignment at Vienna before I got schooling was working in the cafeteria. I was there for about 3 months. Now, the cafeteria was an interesting situation because I had worked about 10 or 15 years in the food industry before going to prison, so I knew the standards. I had a food handler certificate, all that good stuff. But boy, was this weird. Okay, I'll start with the most minor thing, but just something that could have been a big deal, is the can openers. Basically, my job, I was a dishwasher, but I would get there and open all the cans for lunch right when I got there. So we're talking about 40 or 50 cans as quick as I can. And it was a very rusty can opener, which, as people in the food industry knows, that is a big no-no. That'll get you shut down, and that is major because of the stuff you can spread. But that's just the beginning, okay? So you might hear that and just shrug like, really? Oh, no, wait, there's more. Um, Also, bread. Bread was generally stored in the refrigerator, but sometimes it was out at room temperature. But regardless of what location it was at, basically every morning we came in very early, about 3:30. The mice would rip the bottom of all the buns or the bread bags and start nibbling away. You'd have little mouse poops everywhere, so you could easily distinguish what exactly was going on. And quite often, a roach or two would crawl in those holes. And we would be told just to throw away the bread that had been chewed on. Obviously, that's problematic with the bacteria and feces that can spread. Did it? Um, we don't know. I will say that most of us, while not being completely incapacitated sick, there was a, I don't know how to say this. There was a lot of time spent in the bathroom with diarrhea and stuff like that. I mean, a lot. And being in such close quarters, everyone knows when everybody else is having a problem like that. And it was pretty much a constant for a good portion of us. Now, at the time, realize the dynamics we have. I mean, I was a prisoner. I didn't know what I could say. And the whole concept of incarceration, at least how it stands now, is to dehumanize you. So a lot of us saw this and just accepted this. Um, you might go back and tell your cellmate, but generally keep it on the DL because what good's it going to do? And I will say that the food situation had gotten so bad that a good portion, I mean, it's hard to just tell you off the top of my head. I would say about 50% of people, especially those that had means, didn't even go to the cafeteria. They would subside. They would basically exist on ramen noodles, chili flavored ramen noodles, the green pack. I remember those well. So it was just weird that you would bypass free food, but those are the long timers who had been there a lot longer than me, and they're like, we've heard stories. Now I don't want to tell you secondhand stories, so I'll just say it was pretty gross. And the last thing on the food, how I mentioned that so many of the inmates would just stay back in their cells and eat their own food, ramen noodles. Every other Friday we had fried chicken or fried catfish. Now those were commodities, and I thought it was weird how I could trade my fish or my chicken for 5 to 8 packs of noodles. That's a major commodity in prison. And then I started thinking, well, all these people who generally don't eat in the cafeteria, why are they so willing to pay for this fried food? And I asked once, and the response was amazing. I think it might have been 25% in jest, but 75% I believe was honest. Somebody that I sold my meal to said, well, if they deep fry the roaches, you can't really tell they're there. Wow. Okay. So the roach thing that I had seen, I guess was huge. And it's just really inconceivable how you don't have roaches in the dormitories, but the cafeteria is full of roaches and mice. And then the last one, the legend. I heard this when I was sitting in the county waiting to go to prison. I guess this is pretty widespread, is the bologna. Okay. The bologna was never the color of bologna you would expect to get on the outside. It might have that tint, but it also have blue, purple, green. I don't know what it was. And here's the situation: if you don't have somebody on the outside sending you commissary, you got to eat it. There's no way around that. And yeah, if you haven't heard the legends of prison bologna, well, now you have, and I assure you they're 100% true. Racism between guards and incarcerated individuals. Yeah, this is an interesting situation. Working in the cafeteria, all the cafeteria workers, not the people that were incarcerated, but the actual state workers who were there, as well as the corrections officers, I believe every single one was white. We were down in southern Illinois on the border, so these aren't just white people. These are country white people. I don't know what word to use to sound offensive. I don't want to label all country people as racist. So let's just say they were the good old boys. It was a good old boy network. And there was a lot of language that wasn't so shocking when I was there, because I was trying to just get through myself. I wasn't going to be a social justice warrior while I was in prison. I waited to get out of prison to go that route. And you would never hear that word, but you'd hear a lot of other ones. Ones I'm not going to repeat because we didn't really talk that way. But very offensive words, and the power dynamic almost made them more powerful, because I mean, that incarcerated person can't speak back to you or tell you to shut up or tell you you're being offensive. They have to just sit there and take it. 2 more small stories about racism issues. First, working in the cafeteria, and even if you're not in the cafeteria, even if you're just eating there, sometimes you'll try to smuggle food out of the cafeteria, and then you could have it back in your room, which would work as a commodity, especially if it was some sweets. You know, you guys have your dinner, you go back to your cells, you're watching TV, and somebody wants a piece of cake or some cookies, and hey, guess what I got? You know, that's a lot of noodles or some ride-outs or a couple bars of detergent. I mean, regardless, that's a good payoff. So it would be sneaking these cookies or whatever out, wrap it up in your napkin, and just tuck it, you know, in your pockets. But there would be 3 or 4 correction officers on the way out randomly frisking people. And I never got frisked. And I guess you can probably assume who did it was always the black individuals. And I shouldn't just say just black, people of color, because we had plenty of Latinos in there with me as well. But yeah, I never got searched once. I mean, I don't think I necessarily look like somebody who wouldn't be sneaking food out of the cafeteria. I am a big guy, and I was a big guy then. But that's basically institutionalized systemic racism. But that wasn't quite as bad as the worst thing I ever saw. Two people, I guess I would call them friends. They came in on the bus with me, so we had a chance to get to know each other. One was a black individual, one was white. One day in the cafeteria, they were all in there with me. They got to fighting. I don't know what started it. And it was, both guys got hit a couple times and we broke it up because we don't want to bring any attention. We want the COs coming back because in prison they do this thing where they punish everyone. For instance, if those two were fighting and they found a mark on somebody and we didn't talk, we were all going to lose privileges, So what happened is, the fight broke up. It was all good and had nothing to do with race. A lot of people tell fairy tales about race wars and gang wars in prison. I think that's more for the maximum securities or other states. I definitely am not sticking up for prisons, but I didn't really experience any of that when I was in Vienna or Jacksonville. So anyway, back to the story. We're leaving the cafeteria for the day. The white guy had a little mark above his eyebrow from getting hit, so we pulled his hairnet down to cover it up. So on the way out, almost like somebody had already talked, the CEO immediately was like, take your hairnet off. And you can't say no. So he took it off, and the CEO saw what he was looking for, the mark on his head. So what happened? Who put that there? He died denying stuff for a minute. Then the black gentleman who got in a fight with him stood up because he knows you're not talking, you're going to seg. So he tried sticking up since we were all friends. I still never found out what the fight was about. But the black gentleman's like, man, we got in a fight over this and that. We're all good. It's over with. It's killed. Nobody's bleeding. And the CEO's like, well, you put a mark on this guy, so you're going to seg. And the white guy himself was even like, no, that's my friend, man. We hit each other. It was a fight. Who started it? Well, nobody really started. It just popped off. Regardless, the white guy went back to his cell without so much as a write-up. The black gentleman, I believe, went to seg. We never saw him again. I don't presume that, something like he fell off the face of the earth. I just assume they moved into a different housing unit after his stay in segregation. But in a place like prison where permanency is the only thing you had to hold on to, you don't like jumping around a lot unless you're very uncomfortable where you're at. That guy had to start over from scratch, and with a record on the inside. So yeah, that was a messed up situation, seeing the disproportionate punishment of a black man as well as letting the white guy off. Should have let them both off. Stuff happens when you pack a bunch of us into cages. When we get out of the cages, people get aggressive, and respect's a big issue because you don't have a whole lot of commodities in there. You got respect and you got commissary. So that's about it with racist situations that I actually came across in there. I wasn't quite as awake to a lot of discrimination and stuff like that, to what was really going on. A lot of stuff was interpreted, or probably not interpreted correctly by me. I was just a scared guy in prison. First time, I didn't know what was going on. I was going to keep my mouth shut. Okay. You ever see someone get hurt or sick because of the facility's failings? Okay, this is a weird one. I wish I could find a way to prove this, but I don't think I can prove. Anyway, I was told by other inmates that if I wanted to speed my time up, go get a psychological evaluation, they'll prescribe stuff to make me a zombie so I could fast forward through my time. And I didn't do that, but I saw a lot of zombies walking around. So I'm not trying to get deep into some humongous conspiracy theory, and I'm sure it was all, some sort of legitimate drug, but it appears that what was told to me about fast forwarding and being in zombie mode did happen, and people did take advantage of it. Or excuse me, the prison took advantage of it, because when you're docile, I guess you're pretty damn easy to control. But that was something I wish there was some way to access and do research now that I'm on the outs, because that was really fucked up. Man. First time I ever talked about that. Why do you think Vienna should be shut down? Well, first of all, as I learn more and go further in my education, I'm an abolitionist. But I understand that some people think that's unrealistic, and I can accept that for now. For now, I can accept that. But why should it be shut down? There's no need for it. The place is in bad shape. We're hearing the complaints now. The power outages, I did deal with that, but not for extended times. It would just kind of be convenient where we almost thought they were doing it. For instance, late at night it'd cut off, or maybe they're saving some money, or maybe they just don't want us on our televisions. But yeah, there were power outages. And there's no air conditioning, regardless of power. And you might think, well, man, you're in prison. Sometimes you got to deal with hardships. Yeah, this is down the southern Illinois border, where I'm quite sure it'd get up over 100 quite often. And unless you had the financial capacity to buy a $20 fan, you're screwed. It's going to be hot. Um, Same with the cafeteria, the location, just everything about it. What I'm reading now seems so much worse than when I was there, and when I was there, it was bad. I didn't interpret it as bad because I was dehumanized and institutionalized very quickly after showing up. Plus, I was a short timer. I only served a total of just over a year. But yes, I would definitely like to see it shut down for the aspects I talked about, its location. I mean, you're going to recruit employees and COs who are going to be racist rednecks, we'll go ahead and say it, from southern Illinois. Not everybody is that way, but that's kind of people are going to be attracted to the job, so it's going to perpetuate racism. And if you don't want to spend money and fix the facility, get people out. I mean, I don't know, does it hold 1,800? We'll disperse them to other locations. Oh, the other locations are full. Well, then close some prisons. Close some prisons. Yeah, I guess that's it. I don't want to get too deep because I really don't. It's weird. I really don't like telling stories about when I was in there. But that's not what this was about. So hopefully you found something good you could use. If there's anything in specific you'd like me to elaborate on or go deeper into, just return the email. I'm pretty free today, and I could throw something together the next few nights. Like any of the stories you'd like me to go deeper into. I really don't want to, but if I can play any role in getting this shithole shut down, I most definitely would. So yeah, Chris Miner, R66343, Vienna Correctional Center alumni.